everybody, how are you doing? I hope you are doing well and looking forward to game week 7. Today we will be covering a monster wildcard team as well as progress on my team for game week 7. But before we get there, please like and subscribe this video and put on notifications so that you can actually be alerted for future videos. Please also follow us on Twitter at FPL A+. We've also started a FPL mini league called the FPL A Super League. The league code for that will be included in the description below. Okay, so game week 7, what are we going to do with Trent Alexander-Arnold? I'm sure many of you have thought about that long and hard. If you're wildcarding, it's probably a much easier decision because you could simply not include him and bring him back. However, if you are not wildcarding or have already used a wildcard, it's much more trickier than that. Okay, so firstly, in terms of my own team, what have I decided to do? So some of you might recall my last video, I've given you the early transfers that I did. And the transfers I did was I brought in Lukaku, I brought in Rudiger, and to fund that, I took out Bamford for St. Maximum. So Bamford is out apparently for potentially 2 weeks at least. He's released a statement today that it's going to take him at least 10 days to start running. So that possibly takes us to game week 9, which means that this is likely the correct decision that I made. So I had to bring in a player to fund those moves. Lukaku, that was able to fund Rudiger because I had a very weak bench and I took out Williams. So overall, I think that was the correct decisions that I made in that regard. If I did know about Alexander-Arnold being injured before I made those transfers, would I have changed my transfers? Yes, I possibly would have. But overall, I don't think you should look at it just purely from a game week 7 perspective. You should look at it from a game week 7, 8, and even beyond perspective. With Alexander-Arnold being out only for 1 game week, as per statement issued by Jurgen Klopp today, you would want him back most likely for game week 8. Let's just see how his fixtures are so that we can just give you an idea. So you'll be missing the Manchester City home match. So that possibly might not have been a huge score for him. He might have blanked, might have scored a 2-pointer, even a 1-pointer, because they're playing Manchester City. Watford, he's likely to be available for that. So would you want him back? Most definitely yes. Manchester United, that could be a tight match. At this stage, in terms of consistency, you could say that Liverpool have got potentially the edge on Manchester United. So that might not also be a bad fixture. And then there's Brighton, there's West Ham, there's Arsenal, Southampton. So those fixtures are looking actually quite good. So my plan is to keep Alexander-Arnold. And what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to actually start him. Okay? And I'll tell you now the reason why. The reason why is that even though Klopp ruled him out, what if there is a very, very small chance, albeit 1%, that he makes a miraculous overnight recovery and starts? So rather than have the dilemma of him starting by some miracle and then not getting the benefit of the points, I have decided rather to include him in my lineup. And also, the match against Manchester City is on Sunday. So it's still 2 days away. And if Klopp had the option, would you want to start Alexander-Arnold? Yes, you would want to. If there was potentially a 50-50. At this stage, it's not a 50-50. But if he is fit, he is definitely one of the key guys at the back. And how would that unsettle Pep's team if suddenly Alexander-Arnold rises up and decides to play? The chances are very slim, I think, but it's worth a shot. So if Alexander-Arnold does not play, that is very likely that he doesn't, then Marcel will actually come from the bench and take his spot. The problem I have potentially also got with Marcus Alonso, who has not been in the best of form in the last 2 matches. The match against Juventus in the Champions League, where he was taken off at halftime, as well as the previous week against Manchester City. There is a chance that Chilwell might start. Lots of rumors and speculation going around as to who will be starting. However, I still think it's worthwhile keeping him, because there is a chance he might even play against the weaker teams. And I suppose Southampton could be considered a weaker team. So using that logic, I think he's still got a 50-50 chance of actually starting. Rudiger, I think that's a given, a common transfer for this week. So quite happy with him. Jota and Greenwood are the two players that might not necessarily start. I think Greenwood's got a good chance of starting. Jota less so, because Firmino's back. However, Jota, even coming off the bench as a super sub, sometimes he can actually have a better impact coming off the bench, because he's quite pacey, and the tiring defenders can then actually he can benefit from that. My captain for this week is definitely set on Lukaku. I can see him doing quite well. My only hope is that he does better than Ronaldo, as well as Allan Saint-Maximin, who has been in very inspirational form as the talisman. He's taking on extra responsibility. So I'm hoping him to also at least equal what Ronaldo does, because then I can benefit from Lukaku, his points and captaincy, that could cancel out with any loss if Marcel does concede, because Marcel is playing against Allan Saint-Maximin. Worst case scenario, if I've got two players out, then Marcel will come up in favour of Alexander-Arnold, and because it's a defender, they will skip Allen, and Livramento will come in. So he probably won't do much, but there might be a 1-pointer or a 2-pointer that he could score. But yeah, it is what it is. For next week, I can then be relatively safe that I don't need to make a transfer to bring in Alexander-Arnold. Okay, so then moving on to my wildcard team. So this is the team that I've got currently in mind. Yeah, I'm not playing my wildcard. I've already played my wildcard. If I was able to keep my wildcard, that would be great, especially for occasions like this. Just a reminder, if you don't have to play a wildcard, don't play a wildcard this team if your team is looking in good shape. There could be further events down the line, such as COVID, injuries, fixture, rotation, etc., that you still might need to consider ahead of game week 20, or if you've got any disruptions in your team. However, if your team has got lots of injuries and you don't have some of the key players, such as the Chelsea players that's got fixture swing, etc., then you would be warranted in playing a wild card. Okay, so at the back, the cheapest 4 million goalkeeper, Foster. I think that's kind of almost a no-brainer. He is holding possibly onto his place for a while longer. So that's always worthwhile to have a backup starting keeper that's at the lowest price. Ramsdale, at this stage, the view is that he is potentially nailed on, keeping this form, as well as Arsenal keeping their form at the back. That is a great price, 4.5 million for a top team. Okay, and then at the back, Christensen, for now, he is potentially likely to keep onto his spot, potentially, but just bear in mind that there could be rotation. But playing for a top team such as Christensen, such as Chelsea, it's definitely a value pick. Rudiger, one of the stalwarts of the Chelsea defense, at a relatively good price, at fixtures that are looking quite amazing. Look at that sea of green. That's almost a no-brainer in the team. Cancelo, similarly, one difficult fixture now against Liverpool, and thereafter some great fixtures coming up. Great value, great attacking threat. Duffy, a great enabler. Fixtures are not too bad, and then there's 1 or 2 fixtures thrown in between that's a bit tough, and then there's again some easier fixtures after that. The reason for bringing Duffy also, the most chosen goalkeeper currently in FPL is Sanchez. So by not having Sanchez, Duffy also gives some coverage in terms of the effective ownership that you might lose if Sanchez keeps a clean sheet. And then Livramento, what a star player playing for Southampton. Great value at 4.1 million. And also Southampton's fixtures after game week 7, from game week 8 onwards, as you can see, they're looking quite great. You might even want to start him over some of your other players where their fixtures are tougher. Okay, then I'll go then first to the front. So as you can see, decided to bring in Ronaldo together with Lukaku. So that gives a monster attacking force. The benefit of that is that the effective ownerships would probably be the top in terms of strikers. Even where Ronaldo's fixtures are not looking so good from game week 9-ish onwards. It's not too bad. It's kind of a bit of a mixed bag. Keep in mind this is CR7, a legend, a man that's broken so many records. So as you would have seen in the Champions League match against Villarreal, scoring in the last minute, getting a comeback win from behind for Manchester United. So he's definitely somebody that would be a talisman and would make a difference in your team if he does score some points. Lukaku, a no-brainer as well with the Chelsea fixtures shown earlier. Antonio has been on brilliant form, probably the top striker at this stage in terms of points. As you can see, all those points except for the one where he got a red card. Other than that, he's been on top form. And then Salah, no-brainer, probably the first name that should be on your team sheet, a legend. We've got Mbeumo, who is one of the midfielders that actually links up and plays often in the forward line. He's done reasonably okay, not that much that he's done in terms of scoring. However, keep in mind that this is not necessarily the best run of fixtures that Brentford have seen. After 7 and 8, you'll see their fixtures ease up quite a bit. So that would be quite a healthy set of fixtures to have him. So why not bring him in the wild card? If not, the alternatives that you could bring in could be Dukari, could be Townsend, Gallagher or Gray. Those are all very viable options in that price range. Douglas Luiz at 4.5 million. He's got one of the best stats out of midfielders in that price bracket. So that's just purely an enabler and he'll score you at least 2 points in most games. And you never know, there could be the odd assist as well. Rafinha, what can I say? Probably the top value pick in FPL for all positions at this stage, and definitely in the midfield range. And with all these green fixtures and grey fixtures, as you can see, till game week 15, he is almost an essential. Saar, what can I say? Saar has been brilliant, scored 4 goals in 6 game weeks so far, been quite brilliant playing for a team such as Watford. Great potential, and while he's on form, why not get him in? The alternative to Saar, when the next fixture after Leeds, it starts becoming a bit more tougher, you could bring in Saka from Arsenal, whose fixtures do ease up quite a bit. As we just referred to Ramsdale for Arsenal's fixtures, as you can see, Arsenal's fixtures look much better than what we saw from Saar for Watford. Okay, so that is basically it. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this team. As a wildcard team, what would you do if you were playing a wildcard? Would you make any changes to this? Or are you quite happy with this team in terms of points? Do you see them doing quite well? Let me know. That would be, all your comments would be appreciated. And before we wrap up, just to let you know, always keep an eye on effective ownership. This is quite key. As you can see, we've got most of these players in our team, with a couple of exceptions where there are certain fixture swings or potential for rotation, such as Greenwood and Jota. So that's quite key. And then price rises, just looking at what's likely to happen. At this stage, Saka looks like he is going up tonight, so if you intend to bring him in, try to bring him in while his price is still ahead of the price increase. Ramsdale as well, he's also likely to go up possibly tomorrow, but sometimes this gets some acceleration and then this can change to tonight as well. So if you do intend to bring him in for sure, rather be safe and try to bring him in earlier, especially if it's a wild card. Okay, and then if we move straight to and then lastly, looking at FPL statistics, As you can see, Saka is also intended to go up over here, as well as Ramsdale. So yeah, so that's basically it. Yeah, so in terms of game week 7, I wish you guys all the best of luck, lots of green arrows. And for those wildcarding, try not to leave it to the last minute. Sometimes overthinking it does actually spoil it. Your first decision sometimes is the best decision. Just make sure that you've considered rotation and nailed on players in your squad. All the best of luck, and wishing you an A+ for your Game Week 7 score. Cheers.